say ye in the Indians go for by, Yasa ko fa for Eddie Abba, or my Ghana with the Sawa Palm on your summer would walk pan, Yamemodia, and ye. To me in yin in the news and for no in Sincha the Birada. And today I may catch us subscribe to your channel no. Also, all other relevant news are and can for politics one, any governance, any idea. Say for political parties, NPP, NDC, CPP, PDP, and other political parties, no so. Osabeka won sɛ mo ha ɛdeɛ na asɛ si bio a ama atumpan ana ama yɛnya asomdwee ɛwɔ setedumase yi yɛnkɔtie nsɛm bi mmra mpɛdefoɔ ase ka kɔm gyagye no kɔfoɔ anum nti mentumi nka nsɛm nso mfa nhyɛ nkɔfoɔ bi ano yɛnkɔtie mmra na yɛba a yɛde adwenkyerɛ bɛhwɛ sɛ wotie no na wo comment nso bɛgu aseɛ na biribiara nso ayɛ kama ne yɛtumi anya berɛ akenkan ɛde ama wo before that nso no subscribe to your channel no Osabeka all other relevant news yɛtie nsɛm mmra sisi a na yɛba a yɛde deɛ aka biara nso atoa wo so na biribiara nso ayɛ wano yɛntie mmra sisi a
is to transform politics in our country. I was just listening to what was transpiring, the program before we joined in. And I think it's time for us to create a new Ghanaian. It's very important. And we, the political leaders, have to lead by example, not just by mere words, by our actions. Because patronage should take a back seat right now for us to understand that the very essence of politics is to improve the livelihoods of the ordinary Ghanaian. And once we make that a priority, it will change the way we do politics. Because as it stands now, Ghana, it is so stridently divided that we look at every problem through political lenses. What is wrong, and what is good is good. It doesn't matter whether you are NPP or NDC. There comes a time we have to speak up. And I quite remember in 2022, I had an interview, was it with Akusuya Kunedu? She was also an affiliate of Joy. You know, when I called on the finance minister to step down, and there were people who were criticizing me that because I'm an NPP member, I shouldn't say so. I said so because he looked in the eyes of Ghanaians and said, we're not going to IMF, that we're a proud country, we can take care of ourselves. And within a week, a solid 360 turnaround. And I feel that we should not accept mediocrity in this country.
Does it surprise you what is happening, the accountability that most of the investigative bodies are seeking with him? Does it surprise you? Not
exactly. What I'm trying to say is there should be harmony, there should be equity, and we should not let it create the impression that it's political harassment. I believe that when you tinker with the public treasury, that there has to be a high penalty that you should pay. You know, and I have zero tolerance for corruption. I've been there before. I've served as press secretary to the president for close to 6 years, and I'm blemished service in government because I believe that politics is about service. It's about working hard to ensure the goodwill of the people, the welfare of the Ghanaian people. It's not about ourselves. And right now, the direction that we are running as a country, the trajectory that we are on, I'm worried about it. And it's getting more stridently divisive. I think we stand in urgent need of healing. And I'm the kind of person I believe can heal the divisions in the NPP and also in Ghana. Because I'm worried about what is happening around the country. What they were discussing is an assault on democracy. Because the three pillars of democracy, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, they are supposed to be checks and balances on each other. The impression should not be created that the executive can virtually take control of the judiciary.
By this means you're talking about the removal of the Chief
Justice, which I think was totally unfortunate. It was premeditated. We saw it before the election. They promised it. They've done it without, the charges that they are talking about doesn't pass the smell test at all.
But is it the fault
to remove the Chief Justice?
Would it be the fault of the government or the provision in the Constitution?
The Constitution is made for man. It is the president who operates the Constitution. And that's why the buck stops at the decks of the president. These frivolous petitions should never have passed the decks of the president. Never. That's why he's president. And I'm disappointed in wasting the state's time and energy in removing a Chief Justice who had not caused any major infractions in society. When there's a grave error, all of us will admit that there has been a grave error. But so far, tell me, you are a journalist, MFA. really what have you heard has been the culpability of this Chief Justice. So it was just a political move, calculated to cause fear in the judges. And Mahama, when he was in opposition, president, was accusing President Akufo-Addo of packing the courts with his favorites. But, I mean, to give some credibility to the president, he was always filling vacancies when they arise. I disagreed with him then because I believed our Supreme Court should not be more than 9 judges. President Ajipon would put a cap on the Supreme Court and lift the 70-year-old age for Supreme Court judges. Okay. And so, therefore, I would have thought that even when Akufo-Addo was president, that when there's a vacancy, you can use the vacancy to reduce the number of judges. So I disagreed with him on that. But he had the prerogative, and he was only filling. President Mahama came in without a vacancy, in one fell swoop, appointed 7 Supreme Court judges. And that is completely in variance to what he was saying when he was in opposition.
You say that we should create a new Ghanaian. You say that you think that you can do quite better with this country. Let's talk about the medium or the vehicle with which you can do that, of course, because you belong to a political party. Yeah. So let's talk about the political party maybe first, then we'll open it up to the country at large. If you look at the days and the years you spent, the early days of the NPP and today, what has changed?
That is why my theme, the theme of my campaign is NPP going back to our roots.
What does that mean?
When I say roots, when politics was a noble calling. If you look at our forefathers, our forebears, the sacrifices they were making, and we were under military dictatorship. It took courage, determination, a large dose of volunteerism and commitment to bring this party this far. There was no essence of materialism. We were never ruled by money. It was all by merit. You understand? And I think we've lost our way a bit as a political tradition. And that is the message I've been communicating to our delegates, that we need to restore the cherished values, the values that made this party the pride of Ghanaians, because there were people who that you could look at, great people who were prepared to sacrifice their lives just for the development of democracy. That seems to have waned significantly. And I want to use myself, my life in politics, because I was pretty young in 1992, but I was there when it happened. That dedication, that will to do something for your country, not always to look at what you get out of our system. That is what I want to inculcate in the generations unborn.
But globally, if you look at it and you put Ghana in the middle of the global conversation when it comes to politics, does it look to you as though we can go back to that era?
We can.
We can. People's aspirations and missions.
I think we need a new leader, a new leadership, a new political thinkers, people who think, people who have character. It's not razzmatazz. It's not throwing away money and you know, the kind of materialism that we are seeing dominating politics.
What do you describe as razzmatazz?
A lot of showbiz and throwing things about. You know, that for me, politics is serious. The welfare of the 35 million Ghanaians, MFA, is a serious matter. And I think that as a country, we don't look at our priorities well, whether it's socially, economically, or politically. And so it is very important that it is time to recalibrate our thinking of what politics should be. We think it's patronage, that every party comes into power and we treat Ghana as a piece of cake, we cut it up and share it up amongst ourselves. That is wrong. I have been there before. I've been press secretary to the president at the high level of a cabinet minister in the government. I did not misconduct myself. I did not abuse myself. I have zero tolerance for corruption. And I think we have to begin to communicate that to the Ghanaian people. Because all the Afrobarometer surveys that you see, the respect, the regard that Ghanaians have for politicians has collapsed. Because there's a feel that we get in there to feel ourselves. And so it is time
going around the country and engaging with delegates.
That's right.
Do they understand this?
They do. A lot of them. I mean, you speak to them, some are even in tears. They believe that it is time for us to put our hands on our chest and know that we can build our country. All the developed countries that around the world were not built on materialism. They were built on public-spirited leaders who were prepared. Look at Angela Merkel. She left as chancellor, still went back to her flat. Was loved by Germans because she did the people's bidding, the people's job. That is what we should be doing. We have become a celebratory people, you know that. Because once Ghanaians get a position, they're always surrounded and imprisoned by enablers who are urging them on to do the wrong things. And so I'm against that. I want to speak against that. I want to be the politician, even if it is a risk of political victory. I'm prepared to do that. I'm going to be the politician who's going to fight for what is right in our country.
It's not your first time wanting
Yes.
to be president of this country. I would say that you're quite not relenting. You've shown, if we follow your journey, but between 1992 till today, as you sit in this chair, at what point did you think that I think I can be president of this country?
Well, I've thought about that for a very long time because I feel we have a deficiency in this country to have public-spirited individuals who are dedicated to fighting for the common good, who have a collegial mentality, who are looking for our collective welfare and not self-aggrandizement. That's not all we need in our country. And although we are in a small minority, and I know that we are an endangered species now, people talk to me and say, "Komna, what you are saying is utopian." It is not utopian. It is achievable. And it's all down to political leadership. I don't think our constitution is faulty. I think I blame the presidents for the way they have manipulated the constitution.
This constitution as we have,
As we have.
You'd rather it's...
I think it's a good constitution. The only change I would like to make to it, to have full separation between the legislature and the executive like in America.
But can that be very functional? Very full separation.
Why not? So that cabinet ministers are not members of the legislature, so that the parliament will concentrate on doing what they are supposed to do, to have oversight responsibility on the government, so that it becomes a check and balance. We have been running a deficit budget for ages. Look, we've done SRP, ERP, FinSAP, we've done all the economic models, but we are still where we are. So it's not about the economic policies or economic models. It's a lack of implementation. It's a lack of goodwill. It's a lack of strong political will to impose order and discipline in every facet of our national life.
Back to the NPP as a party again. So you say that you wish that party members, you will take them back to the way it was years ago when you started. What would be that one thing you'd like to see change with the NPP? I see that you have proposed a number of reforms, which have actually taken expression in the new reforms that they have just done.
But it didn't go far enough.
It didn't go far enough.
I wanted the party to be handed back to the masses. And that if we cannot get every registered member who is dues paying to have a voting right, the very least we could have done, and that was in my proposal of 17 April 2025, to give a voting right to all the former executives of our party. They have worked for the party right from 1992. At the ward level, at the polling station level, at the electoral area level, and then at the constituency level. That will expand the electoral college to close to about 2 million. That will make it unattractive for people to try to go around with goodies.
But in general elections, you still see people go around with goodies.
And we have to speak against it, and we have to work against it. Because at the end of the day, we are trying to make leadership the preserve of a wealthy few.
Maybe my question is on the premise that if indeed we open the base, what's the incentive that if people can do it in the general election, it cannot happen within the party internally?
What is important is that when you are doing that, when we break up the delegate system, then we can use platforms such as yours. And that's why I have even challenged my other 4 colleagues that we should have a nationally publicized debate. Ghanaians and our party people deserve to make an informed choice. And that informed choice will be based on our policy differences, our priorities, our character, our record. That should be scrutinized. You understand? Right now, nobody has taken up that offer that I made. I think that the Ghanaian people deserve to know where we stand on major policies because, you know, we don't do a lot of thinking in Ghana. You know, we have to be serious-minded people, and character matters. You know, so I think the way we are looking at governance, it's becoming like a popularity contest. But that does not normally give you the best leader that we need. We need somebody who's got transformative ideas, somebody who has shown that he's prepared to work for results. That is important. And then has the political will to crack the whip when it matters. And I think I fit that kind of bill.
Talking about what you fit, have you heard about that theory about you that, oh, well, Kwabena Agyapong, quite a fine gentleman. I think he would make a better departmental head, if you understand that. I think he can be general secretary. He can whip people back in line. Have you heard that about yourself?
I've been general secretary before.
I mean, they think that...
I don't know why you are telling me about the position of general secretary.
Not that
you
particularly.
Work to move forward in life.
Not the general secretary today per se, but people say that, well, you're such a fine gentleman, but you should look at a position that holds the party together, not necessarily the president or the flag bearer. Have you heard that at all?
What is important is that the party itself is in the belly of the country.
Okay.
And I think both the country and the party stands in urgent need of a serious-minded, public-spirited individual to lead our country, who's prepared to call a spade a spade. It's very important. And we haven't had that for a bit. So I think it's important that my views are very clear. I have a strong 6-point plan that I'll adore very soon to the people of Ghana, including land reform, including restoring meritocracy and professionalism to the public services. I think in Ghana now, we've tainted everything with politics. And that's why I see the move on the Chief Justice as an assault on the pillars of democracy. Today, you go into a sensitive institution like the army or the police, and they are telling you this man is NPP, this man is NDC. That is wrong. There should be stagecraft. People are there, they should be professional enough to serve their country. And the fact that somebody was CDS under an NPP administration, that doesn't make him an NPP person. And we need to protect the state institutions.